Would you like a fun way to cool down from the summer heat? I have 3 snowman-themed DIYs that are super cute, super chill, and super easy to make. For our first project, I'm going to show you how to create a wonderful busted canvas. Step by step, I'll demonstrate all the tips and techniques for this popular craft. You only want the top ply of the napkin design. A drop of adhesive glue between your thumb and index finger eases that separation. Then flip that top ply on top upside down over a piece of plastic and spray it with some water. That immediately causes it to wrinkle, but these are wrinkles we can control. Gently pull those wrinkles out using your fingertips. The next thing I'm doing is using one of the Dollar Tree sponge brushes, and I'm just applying a liberal coating of Mod Podge over the surface of the canvas. I cut this piece from one of the Dollar Tree canvases. Once I have a nice even coat of Mod Podge on that canvas surface, I'm then just going to take that plastic bag. I'm going to flip it over so that the napkin will be right side up. As you see now, I'm just using that tissue, the bottom plies of that napkin, to smooth over that plastic bag, going from the inside outward. And then peeling back the plastic bag reveals that napkin beautifully adhered to the canvas. The texture of the canvas shows through and gives the look of a painted design. It's an amazingly simple process that reveals a very transformative result. I'm now using some very fine glitter that I purchased from Amazon just to dust the lower portion of the design. I want to make the snowman sparkle. Now I'm using this piece of black canvas. This is another $1.25 Dollar Tree black canvas. I'm also going to use a piece of really pretty rice paper that I bought from the paper source. I cut it to fit into the back side of the canvas. Again, I'm using that Dollar Tree sponge brush as well as some Mod Podge to provide a nice liberal coating to adhere that rice paper. Now, it's important to lay the paper down so that the pretty, most decorative side is upside down. Now that it's in place, you can see I'm using that same sponge brush and adding Mod Podge to the surface of it. I'm going to do that a couple of different times with a thorough dry in between each coat. Now, with my heat gun, I'm hastening that drying process so I can add the next layer of Mod Podge. The reason I'm adding several layers of Mod Podge is to create a very leathery texture. While that continues to dry, let's take another look at our little snowman design on the canvas. It's dried nicely, and I'm using some hot glue so that I can adhere it. Now, what I'm using to adhere it to is a piece of foam. You could use a thick piece of cardboard or almost anything, but I had that piece of foam in my stash. Here I'm using the sponge brush again, putting on another layer of Mod Podge and drying it again. While all of that continues to dry, now I'm going to show you how I'm using a $1.25 basket, that same sponge brush with some more Mod Podge, and I'm going to use another portion of our snowman napkin. I'm using a water pen. It's filled with water in the chamber, and I outline the portion of the design that I want to use. That weakens that portion of the napkin, allowing me to tear it away, creating a feathered or deckled edge around the design. That will help it to blend nicely into the weave of the basket. So now that I have it torn away, I'm going to again put some Mod Podge in between my index and thumb and go ahead and separate those plies. Once again, we just want the top layer of the design, so I'm tearing away the bottom 2 plies of the napkin. I'm going to set that aside while I use a liberal amount of Mod Podge in the bottom of the bowl of the basket. Using that sponge brush gets it nicely down into the weave. The next step is just to lay your design in place. I'm very carefully using my fingertips to press it down into the weave and make sure that it adheres on all sides. Then I'm going to use some more Mod Podge and just go over that snowman to seal it in. I've sped this up for you, but you do want to be very gentle with your motions so that you don't tear that thin, wet napkin. Here again, I'm using that heat gun that I purchased from Amazon just to hasten that drying. And before it's fully dry, I'm using that fine glitter to go over the entire design. That makes it look very sparkly and shimmery the way new fallen snow often appears. Before I decorate the rim, I'll set it aside to dry while we return to our busted canvas. Now that it's thoroughly dry and the back does feel very leathery, I'm using a fine pair of scissors to create a cross design in the center back. You could use an X-Acto knife as well, but I'm using this little fine pair of scissors to create a vertical and then a horizontal line. That's the beginning of your busting out technique. Then I'm going to create radiating spokes. Now you want to be conscious of how far out you want your lines to go. My design is rather small and won't fill the entire frame, so I'm not going to go too far out because I don't want to expose beyond the actual design. So just be mindful of that as you cut outward. You can cut as many diagonal lines as you would like, depending on how many curls you want there to be in your busted canvas. Some people also twist their strips, giving it an added dimension of design. Here, I'm making quite a few diagonal cuts outward toward the outer border of the frame. But again, I'm not going too far out. I've learned from past experience, it's easier to lengthen them than it is to have them cut too far. So you can see now it's working out beautifully. I'm holding from behind the design that we're framing just to get a sense of how far out I want that bust out to be. These are so much fun to do. All you need is to use a drop of hot glue on that tip and then just curl it back. Using your fingers, you can form that curl any way that you would like. They can be symmetrical or asymmetrically designed. You can have a lot or a few. It's really a creative process that's very easy to do and very satisfying. You can see how the effect of the bust out emerges. And I think that red against that really vivid black canvas is a bold display. So I'm just continuing to hot glue my tips down, and then I'm going to go ahead and frame our design. Because I had mounted my canvas to a piece of foam, I simply used hot glue around the border and attached it to the back so that the design would show through. Then I added a Dollar Tree snowflake from a package of scatter. And now I'm using this marker to just create the look of falling snow around our framed image. I wanted to carry the theme from the design all the way to the outer border of our canvas. And you can see I'm just using dots with this white marker. I think that was a fun finishing touch. I'm also using that same white marker to highlight the little places where the snow was falling in the design. Then I decided also to finish off the back. I didn't want that raw look to the back where you could see the foam, so I used a piece of rice paper to finish off the back as well. Now that our little basket has dried, you can see how sparkly and charming that design is. I also cut out some other little parts of the napkin to decorate the outer perimeter. This could be used in a very handy way on an entryway table to hold your keys or on a desk to hold any desk accessories. One more example of once you learn the basic decoupage technique using napkins and canvas, it's so much fun and so easy and inexpensive to create lovely decor for your home or as gifts. I would love to hear which was your favorite in the comments below. If you love cozy winter crafts, Christmas in July, and unique DIY decor, you're going to love today's project. We're going to be making an adorable snowman vignette using simple supplies like styrofoam balls, DIYS air dry clay, and many Dollar Tree embellishments, perfect for your winter centerpiece or holiday display. I'm going to be using 3 graduated size styrofoam balls, which I bought from the Dollar Tree. I'm attaching them using some glue and a skewer stick for stability. I've thinly rolled out the DIYS air dry clay, which I'm now wrapping around the first 2 styrofoam balls. I'm showing you here just how beautifully this does conform to the contours of these styrofoam balls. Just working it with my finger, you can see it adheres nicely. And it's important to first knead the clay a little bit to get it soft and pliable, and then roll it out as you saw me do rather thinly so that it does conform nicely to these balls. And you may need to roll out several sheets of the clay just to cover all surfaces. And once you have, you see I'm using some clear water. It looks colored because of the shadow, but it's actually just plain clear water in a mug that I'm using on my fingertips to smooth out the surface of the clay overlay. Now I'm just rolling out another piece of the clay so that I can cover a 3rd styrofoam ball. So here I have another thin sheet of the clay, and I'm going to be adding that over the 3rd styrofoam ball. You can see the water technique has given me a nice smooth surface, and now I'm adding some more glue to the ball in the middle and adding some as well to the skewer stick that has the smallest ball for the head. And now just wrapping that as I did the other portions. Next, I'm going to create some arms, but first I'm using this pottery tool to just touch up any other areas on the snowman. Now just cutting one of the arms. As you see, I'm just rolling out some narrow pieces, which I'm attaching very easily with a small amount of pressure, as well as a little bit of scoring right along the connection there. And then I'm just putting that arm in position. Depending on what you want your snowman to hold, you'll put your arms in different positions. But I'm going to have mine holding a little wreath, so they're facing toward the center. This is actually a chopstick. I saved it from a Chinese carry-out we received, and I'm using it because it's the perfect design for a carrot nose. It contours at the tip, and I've used some glue on the end that I've cut just to secure that into that styrofoam ball, and just rubbing that glue around that edge so it's not visible. And once everything dries, I'll be painting that. But in the meantime, I'm going to create some small balls that I'm flattening out with my finger, and I'm going to use those for his sweet little cheeks. We're going to also be using a marker to create the look of charcoal eyes and a smile. A drop of water combined with gentle pressure adheres those nicely. Now, buttons. I have 3 white buttons in graduated sizes and this wonderful Dixie Belle chalk mineral paint. And I'm using my little paintbrush, and I've actually attached the button to the end of a skewer stick just so that I can hold it up and give it a nice coat of paint. For those of you who are new, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Lisa. Welcome again to my channel. And if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you would give it a like, a thumbs up. It really does help my channel to grow. Now that the snowman has dried, that air dry clay is thin and dries quickly. You can see I'm using this orange Posca marker to paint our carrot stick nose. And then we're going to add on some more fun embellishments. Now that our snowman has thoroughly dried, I'll be applying a couple of coats of the Dixie Belle Chalk Mineral Paint in the color Buttercream. This warm white buttercream colored paint has a beautiful matte finish and it's easy to work with. It gives it a soft, snowy effect. Find that 2 coats of this nice, rich buttercream paint works perfectly. And now that I've finished painting the entire front side, I'm going to add on one more fine sprinkle of the glitter paint maker. A light dusting really does make this snowman sparkle. And after allowing the snowman to thoroughly dry, I'm using this paint marker and I'm just going to put some dots to represent the eyes. And then I'm going to do the same thing to create a very happy smile. It's really delightful to create something and see it come to life. And this Sharpie marker is creating the look of a charcoal smile. Then I'm going to use some pretty pink watercolor paint to highlight those cheeks that we created from the clay. But first I'm going to attach the 3 black buttons to the front of the snowman using some hot glue. You can attach anything decoratively to the snowman. I'm choosing this wreath that I had in my stash and I'm going to apply some hot glue to the front ends there of the hands, and I'm just going to place that sweet Christmas wreath right in the center. The options for what you let the snowman hold are endless, and you could also create some fun designs using the air dry clay and various molds. Now I'm using some pink watercolor paint and I'm just going to highlight those contours we created with the clay. I think this soft pink against that buttercream colored paint is very pretty. I think a snowman like this would bring a smile to anyone's face. Now let's dress him up. I'm using a Dollar Tree dog scarf. You can see this little pet scarf is the perfect softness and pattern for a snowman scarf and hat. It was $1.25 at the Dollar Tree and provides a nice soft piece of fabric. I'm cutting the first narrow strip to serve as a little scarf. Another wider piece will make a sweet checkered cap. All you have to do is create a narrow cuff by folding over that bottom piece. Hot glue comes in handy to secure it to itself and also to form seams to bring it around so that it makes, as you see, a nice little cap-shaped design. You can see I'm just cutting off a small amount of this red twine and then just tying it together, and that will create a nice gathered design at the top of the cap. I'm going to use some hot glue to secure it to the top of the snowman's head. And there he is, our own handcrafted charming snowman. This would look so pretty displayed singly or as part of a vignette. But first I want to give him a little bit of stability for his base. And to do that, I'm using this nice natural slice of wood. By hot gluing this to the base of the snowman, he'll be able to stand upright. You could insert him into a lantern, use it as part of a floral centerpiece, or stand alone under a lamp. But here our charming snowman is displayed in an easy vignette that I created using an old tin that had a snowman theme, as well as some bottle brush trees and little ornaments and a deer, all from the Dollar Tree. There's so many fun ways you can create these. And there you have it, 3 charming snowman-themed DIYs that you can make with just a few simple supplies. It's all about adding that magical handmade touch that makes your gifts and decor feel extra special any time of year. I invite you to consider subscribing if you haven't already, and please do hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of all of my upcoming videos for Christmas in July, fall projects, and winter crafting. Do take care. God bless.